what to do?
Ну, с разрешения.
Yes. Of course, on
Сейчас.
as you go, but
Ну, чуть что, Рик, мы знаем, что делать.
The same conclusion. Okay, so I'll talk about the satellites first of all. I'll only say what I know. I am not going to have any supposition. I'm not going to say I think. If I'm leaning somewhere but I haven't got the evidence, I'll just say, you know, well, it could be this. But I'll only give you what I know. I know that between 3 and 6 satellites were deactivated. They're still up there, not been shot down. They're still up there. They've just been switched off between 3 and 6. Interestingly, that some of the names that have been bandied about, I'm aware of, and one name isn't. There's the Snow White is the key satellite here, but I actually know it probably as Dark Night or Black Night.
Oh, right.
So the Snow White satellite I would know as Black Night or Dark Night. That is the key one. The other one that's very key is the Early Bird. There was an original satellite, I think in the 50s or 60s, which was called Early Bird. And I think it was the very first telecommunication satellite that was put up. And so this is called Early Bird because it's all about telecommunications. So these satellites were not satellites run by the good guys that were taken out by the bad guys. These were not satellites taken out by aliens. These were can we just call them a bad guy group of satellites that were taken out by the good guys. That's my view, my understanding on it. These satellites did 2 things. One which you would expect, which is the communications, but they did something else as well. From the communications point of view, it allowed an encrypted channel that nobody else had to run all over the planet to secret locations, encoded, I don't just mean secret geographically, secret encoded locations that meant that it was not possible for outsiders to break in. Even the National Security Agency weren't able to break into it. Now, part of the key group of this was Britain's GCHQ, and that connection was also taken off. So it means that if something was to happen, the bad guys couldn't tip each other off. So that's the very obvious part. And I think perhaps most people could grasp that. But there's another part here, that this system was actually, it's a British word, but I'm sure you American guys have this. We call it eavesdropping. Do you have that word?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, fine. I don't want to just assume. It was actually, this system was actually eavesdropping on all of the encrypted secret communications from American government and world government in terms of all the different, countries that feed information in. Now, this system could have been taken down a long time ago, but the reason it was taken down now was because we're just 2 weeks away from something fairly big happening. And the good guys left this for as long as possible because they didn't want to give any more warning or notice than they had to. So it means that the bad guys now are blind electronically to a certain extent on this secret route. They don't have access to it. It also means now that they cannot hack into or get hold of information that's coming through the normal secure routes, which they could have done before. The other thing I wanted to say, which has perhaps not been picked up on, is that one of these satellites, I call it the Dark Knight or the Black Knight satellite, wasn't just a communications. It had a frequency to it that could activate certain people on the planet who had chips or had been programmed. So this satellite could take control of certain individuals on the planet to make them do certain things. So that, my understanding is that's part of the system that's been taken down. So there are a lot of people now who not any of the wiser, but they can't be activated to undertake assassination attempts or anything like that. So that was the Black Knight or Dark Knight satellite, which some people call Snow White. There is a confusion over those two. So that's what I wanted to say. Now, the other thing is that the US, Britain, Canada, Australia were part of what we call the Five Eyes. And that now means that that information is now secure and cannot be passed on to this illegal group. So that's really what I wanted to say about the satellites.
Okay, wonderful, fascinating, I have to say. Now, what I'm going to do here is bring in some information that I have, and then you can kind of commentate on that.
Sure.
The bottom line is, as everyone knows, I've been talking to Eddie Page, and he was claiming that the Pléyadians, his group of Pléyadians, took down the satellites, or turned them off, or whatever you want to call it. And he didn't give a lot of detail on that. Now, obviously, his story is not quite what you're saying. It is interesting to think about it because, again, with his group, we're talking about Pléyadians that are also what some call the Anunnaki, and we're not sure which are which, and so on. So this is to kind of clarify that when he says something, it may be slightly coded so that people who are out there who are going to have a certain point of view are going to know what he's talking about, but other people won't, and so on. And so that's very interesting. I also want to say that Dark Knight, I've been aware of the Dark Knight satellites. Actually, my information is there are 3 of them. And that one of the key things that they do is that they have the ability to be what they call low tech. And as low tech, they are not interfered with or able to be interfered with by off-planet races, artificial intelligence. That's at least what I've been told. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that was the very key thing about them. And it interests me very much that you're saying that that this one of the Black Knights at least was involved here, because that would tend to mean, if from my point of view, that there was some interference that may be coming along with the whatever event you think is going to be happening soon. And actually, I think this might dovetail with the Sun Observatory situation, that they did not want, let's see, the good guys did not want the bad guys, meaning the off-planet bad guys either, to be able to do this kind of surveillance and things that they could do, and so on. So it brings that into it. Now, I don't know if you want to go there or not, but those are 2 aspects that I'm aware of.
Okay. Any car that's any motor car that's 25 years or old, you can't do the Boston brakes to them. And if you have a satellite that is state of the art in terms of human technology, then it's easy to take over. But if you have a satellite that has 2 phases to it, you have a operating phase, which is pretty mechanical, very, very basic. Then it can't be controlled or taken over in the same way. And you have a backup system on there that you activate for a short period of time, which is the high tech. So I totally agree with that. And that's the way you cover it. Something that's got more mechanical parts in it than super electronics. It's very hard to disable or take down. Anyone who's had a really old motor car, you know you can keep it going with a bit of string and a rubber band. You don't need all the electronics to go with it. So that's a fact, and I will totally agree with that. There are 3 dark nights, but there's one of them that's the coordinator. So there are 3 satellites, but one governs the other 2. If you knock that one out, you knock the others out. And you talk about Eddie Page. I don't like to, and I never really talk about other people, because if I start doing that, they'll talk about me. And there's quite enough people talking about me. What I would say is that
well, let's address the information rather than the
person.
person.
I want to talk about the Palladian part of it. I don't want to be drawn into it, just because I know audience will ask questions, and they ask questions of me and of other people, and I always say no to that. But in terms of the Palladian group, there is a splinter group, and I know you know this, Kerry, but some of the audience, your audience might be new, maybe just tuned in for the first time and might not know this, that there is a group of the Palladians which are not true Palladians. They are a splinter group, and these are the guys that Billy Meyer and George Adamansky came into touch with, and they had a very strong connection to the Sumerian culture. In fact, they were also running a channeling operation, the Vril Society, back in the days of just before Nazi Germany kicked off. And these people operated a very primitive form of Palladian technology. It was an offshoot. They've been offshooted for a very long time. And this group, we can say, had a connection to the control system on Earth. But what I want to do is to make it very clear that there is a big distinction between true 5th dimensional Palladians and a group of Palladians that are split, that look more like Nordics now. They're not actually, but they look more like Nordics, and they are beginning to fall back into the 4th dimension. So it is not the Palladian group that has got anything to do with the Anunnaki. It is a branch, a faction of that group. So that's, I really felt I really had to spell that out.
one of the things we talked about was black knight and artificial intelligence. Black knight was created by the British, according to Mark, and it has wiring in a sort of in place, which is unusual for high tech, instead of boards and slots. And you know, I don't quite understand, but he says the wiring in place makes it very low tech. It's much harder for the ETs and the artificial intelligence out there to attack it and other governments. And there are 3 of these Black Knight satellites out there. If it is messed with, it gets what is called, it gets an itch and sends a notice right away to the British authorities. Now, Cameron Faley, who is one of my witnesses, who is someone who has a background in the Illuminati, working for them in the high-tech and financial area, he has said that a completely different explanation of the Black Knight satellites, saying they were put in place by a positive ET race and that they are a control mechanism for Earth. Obviously, Mark does not agree. I can say that the Black Knight contains a kill chip or on-off switch that is important when you're dealing with artificial intelligence, and that every system that is artificially intelligent that the military works with is said to have a human backup and a kill switch to protect it against takeover, especially from ETs and other AIs, influence or infiltration. Now, the artificial intelligence has an impulse, Mark says, to stay turned on once it's been turned on, and that there are some very negative types of artificial intelligence that have been programmed by other races, and so there's multiple kinds of artificial intelligence, so it's important to recognize that. And let's see if there's anything else in terms of Black Knight and the artificial intelligence. One thing about the low-tech sort of quality of it, it is supposed to make it more difficult for the ETs and other human or ETs, you know, or artificial intelligence to interfere with it. But on top of that, if you refer to my interview with Pete Peterson many years ago, which I highly recommend if you haven't heard it already, Pete Peterson said that he was responsible for creating the actual what's a master chip or kill switch, in essence, for the artificial intelligence Skynet that is in charge of the nanosatellite grid. And that gets into Anthony Sanchez's sort of documented interviews with Lockheed Martin scientists on the run who had been building the nanosatellites that are now in the skies above us. It's a network, and those are artificially intelligent nanosatellites. However, apparently, according to Mark, they are prone to having things go wrong with them. They can be hacked, damaged, or destroyed much more easily than the Black Knight satellite. So, surveillance tech around the planets. The satellites are in place around the planet, and there's a great deal of them. And he's actually giving me numbers. So he said that we have 34 alien satellites that are built by the aliens, and they are tracking everything on Earth. They are run by supposedly friendly species, and Mark says we have 6 friendly species we work with. He said, but we don't actually know what they're doing with those satellites. And then he said the human satellites currently in operation are 8,000. And he said there are also 160,000 human satellites, human-built satellites that are inoperable but still in circulation around the planet. He said there's a huge problem with space debris, not just because of the satellites, but in part because of that. And we talked about that a bit further on as well. He talked.
En resumen, lo que están viendo es el tubo de escape de la nave. Este es el satélite Black Knight. Hay 19 de estos. Son luchadores de la clase Alfratán L. Permanecen en la órbita baja de la Tierra, mirando para abajo como un ave de presa en busca de cabal, reptil y otras naves negativas.
For much of my life, we've been tracking the movement, signals, and coded messages of Black Knight and sharing it with the world. Every time we share, they shut us down.
Alpha team is approaching the target.
But this time it's different.
Upload in progress.
If this gets out, there'll be mass panic. Shut it down.
This time, what we share will change the world.
Hey.
Look, I know we owe each other a big catch-up, but we have to skip it. Your upload is getting hits, lots of hits.
Maybe this time we'll actually figure out what they're saying.
Okay, I know you prefer to do things on your own, but right now is not the time. Do you still have a key?
What are you talking about?
This has the potential to change everything, and I can think of at least a few people who may not be happy about that. You need to get out of there. I'm heading into the city, so meet me at my place. It's safe there.
Bravo team, follow Alpha's command.
Thanks for your help.
No, it's nothing.
I didn't know you still care about all this stuff.
Yeah, I've only funded 3 startups around this stuff. 4, if you said yes.
Yeah, well, you know me better than that.
There's something else.
Don't tell me someone broke it.
You've built quite a community out there. People in 80 countries were working on it. Major contributions came from India, China, Russia, and Australia.
How?
It was encrypted using ancient Sumerian cuneiform. So once we decrypted the file, it barely took any time to translate the voice.
Voice?
I know. People everywhere have been waiting for this. Ready to change the world.
We came to you many thousands of years ago, when your civilization was young. You have grown quickly and efficiently, but you still have so much to learn. If you want us to return, on the night of your next full moon, The people of Earth must show us they are ready. We will be watching.
Do you think they'll come?
Depends if we send the right message.
Let's hope we're not the only ones.
If this actually works, it'll change everything.
Fingers crossed it's for the better.
Come on, guys. Time for the show.
We come together. It's a miracle. I see it in your face, it's written in your eyes, burning like the sun in the sky. Girl, I swear that I could taste it every time that we touch. Girl, I can't get enough. Feel the world slow down as our hearts speed up. If the night burns out, then a fire in love's a bit. Something I believe and I see it all around. I'm so glad that I found you. Better than walking on water or breathing in space. Miracle. In love we overcome impossible. And on this day, we came together with one voice, one purpose, as one world. And a new world opened up, bringing us as close to space as we were to each other. Inside you, how could I forget when you're the only thought in my head? Take my hand, girl, let's get lost and you know where to find.
When you hear Miracles and you watch Black Knight Decoded, what you see is a collaboration of visual and music coming together in a way that's more relevant than just a song.
Something that I believe and I see you all around. I'm so glad that I found